Every man wants to be strong. Every man wants to look fearless. But most crumble the moment life stops going their way. That's why Machiavelli's lessons are not just about power, they're about mental immortality, about becoming so calm, so calculating, so emotionally disciplined that nothing and no one can ever break you again. Before we start, if you're the kind of man who refuses to be weak, who wants to build an untouchable mind and a presence that commands respect, then subscribe now. This isn't motivation, it's mental warfare. Let's begin. If you want to become mentally unbreakable, stop looking for comfort. Stop looking for peace in a world that thrives on control. Instead, start learning how power really works, inside you and around you. Because once you master these lessons, no one will ever be able to use your emotions against you again. The first ruthless lesson: detach your self-worth from other people's opinions. Most men live like slaves without realizing it. They are constantly seeking validation from women, from society, from strangers on the internet. But Machiavelli knew that dependency on approval is the first step to mental weakness. The moment your peace depends on someone else's reaction, you've already surrendered your mind. People will always project their insecurities onto you. They will criticize what they can't be. If you let their judgment define you, they own you. You must become a man who defines himself, a man who walks alone without needing applause. Because when you no longer crave validation, you become dangerous, you're free. But detachment isn't apathy. It's not about feeling nothing. It's about controlling what gets access to your emotions. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must appear compassionate, but inside he must remain cold, rational, unshaken. You can care, but never at the expense of your stability. Once you master this, every insult becomes irrelevant noise. The second ruthless lesson: never explain yourself. Weak men waste their energy defending their every move. Strong men let their results speak for them. The more you explain, the more you expose your insecurities. Every explanation is an invitation for others to question your authority. Machiavelli taught that perception is power. Appear confident, decisive, and mysterious. Make them wonder what you're thinking. Silence is a weapon. It builds tension, and tension builds respect. The people who constantly justify themselves are silently begging for approval. But when you learn to stay silent, when you let your actions create the narrative, you force others to interpret you through their fear and fascination. And that's power, to control the story without saying a word. The third ruthless lesson: turn your pain into strategy. Most people let pain destroy them. The strong let pain train them. Machiavelli lived through betrayal, exile, and humiliation. But instead of breaking, he analyzed everything. He turned his suffering into wisdom about human nature. Your pain is raw data. Every heartbreak, every failure, every loss. It's teaching you something about human psychology. It's showing you where your weaknesses are, where your emotions still control you. The goal isn't to escape pain. The goal is to use it as a forge, to transform emotion into insight. When someone betrays you, don't react. Observe. Ask yourself, what did this reveal about them and about me? The moment you start treating pain like information, you become unstoppable. Because while others drown in their emotions, you're studying them, evolving through them. The fourth ruthless lesson: control your image. Never let them see the real you. Machiavelli said that a leader must learn how to appear virtuous even when he isn't. Why? Because humans are ruled by perception, not truth. The world doesn't care who you are. It cares what you seem to be. Stop showing your weakness. Stop telling everyone your plans, your emotions, your struggles. The more they know, the more they can use it against you. Learn to smile while staying unpredictable. Speak less than you think. Move quietly. Be friendly, but unreadable. People can't attack what they can't define. When you become a mystery, they project power onto you. You control their assumptions without revealing your reality. That's how you manipulate the battlefield without lifting a sword. The fifth ruthless lesson: don't seek revenge. Make yourself untouchable instead. Most men waste energy plotting revenge on those who hurt them. But Machiavelli understood something deeper. Revenge isn't always about destruction. It's about dominance. The best revenge is to become so powerful that their opinion, their existence, their betrayal means nothing. When you rise above your enemies, when you build a life so strong that their actions can't touch you, that's the ultimate form of retaliation. You kill them mentally by making yourself unreachable. Don't play on their level. They want to see you emotional, angry, obsessed. Don't give them that power. Smile in silence. Succeed in silence. Let your success make them rot with envy. That's the Machiavellian way. But here's the truth. Becoming mentally untouchable doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of killing your old self. The emotional, reactive, approval-seeking version of you. Every time you resist the urge to explain yourself, every time you stay calm while others lose control, every time you choose silence over reaction, you sharpen your mind into a weapon. People fear what they don't understand. And when you stop being predictable, when your emotions become invisible, you start to bend reality in your favor. The sixth ruthless lesson, master the art of indifference. Indifference is not weakness, it's power disguised as calm. It's the ability to stay composed when others are losing their minds. Machiavelli said that fortune favors the prepared mind, and nothing prepares you more than emotional control. The world wants to trigger you. Women will test you, society will provoke you, weak men will insult you. Every time you react, you lose power. Every time you respond emotionally, you reveal where to strike next. But when you stay indifferent, calm, controlled, slightly amused, you destroy their power to affect you. Indifference is your shield. It protects your energy, your focus, and your dignity. People will call you cold, heartless, arrogant. Let them. Because only the weak need to be understood. The strong are too busy winning. The seventh ruthless lesson, don't chase, attract. Machiavelli understood that the one who chases is already beneath the one being chased. In politics, in business, in love, whoever needs less holds the power. When you chase approval, you're admitting you're not enough. When you chase people, you're training them to treat you like an option. Detach from the outcome. Focus on building yourself into someone impossible to ignore. Master your craft, your appearance, your aura. When you walk into a room with quiet confidence, people feel it. They want to be near it. That's attraction through strength, not neediness. Never beg for opportunities. Create them. Never run after love. Embody it. The moment you stop chasing, everything that belongs to you starts to gravitate toward you naturally. The eighth ruthless lesson, be feared, not liked. This is one of Machiavelli's most misunderstood principles. He didn't say to be cruel for no reason. He said that it's safer to be feared than loved, because love depends on others, but fear depends on you. When people fear disappointing you, they respect your boundaries. When they only love you, they'll test you, manipulate you, and take advantage of your kindness. Fear is stability. It builds respect where love fails. You don't have to be loud or violent. True fear is created through consistency. When people realize you don't tolerate disrespect, when they see you act with precision and purpose, you don't need to threaten anyone. Your energy alone becomes a warning. And once you're respected through fear, love follows naturally. But this time, it's the kind of love that comes from admiration, not exploitation. The ninth ruthless lesson, play dumb when necessary. The smartest people in history never showed how smart they were. They let others underestimate them. Machiavelli knew that the more you appear harmless, the more freely people reveal their intentions. When you play dumb, you gain information. You observe without resistance. You see who's plotting against you, who's loyal, and who's pretending. Let people think they're smarter than you. Let them underestimate you. Because while they're relaxed, you're already 10 moves ahead. Every powerful man knows how to hide his sharpness. The knife you don't see is the one that cuts deepest. The 10th ruthless lesson, detach from outcomes. Focus on control. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is like a river. You can't control its flow, but you can build dams and channels to direct its force. The mentally untouchable man doesn't obsess over results. He obsesses over control. Control of his emotions, his habits, his preparation. When you're obsessed with results, you're ruled by fear. But when you focus on your process, you can adapt to any situation. You stop reacting and start orchestrating. You become the calm center in a world of chaos. Once you reach that level of mental control, nothing truly affects you anymore. Not rejection, not failure, not betrayal. You see everything as part of a grand strategy. You learn from it, adjust, and move forward, silently, relentlessly. Machiavelli would tell you this: the world doesn't belong to the good, it belongs to the disciplined, the ones who can detach, endure, and think clearly when others panic. So if you truly want to be mentally untouchable, forget about being understood. Forget about being liked. Become the man who controls his emotions, his image, and his direction. Because once you do, no betrayal, no loss, no manipulation will ever touch you again. Every man wants to be strong. Every man wants to look fearless. But most crumble the moment life stops going their way. That's why Machiavelli's lessons are not just about power. They're about mental immortality, about becoming so calm, so calculating, so emotionally disciplined that nothing and no one can ever break you again. You have to understand this truth. People are emotional manipulators by nature. They use shame, guilt, attention, and love as weapons. The weak respond to every one of those weapons. The strong observe, then redirect. When you become mentally untouchable, you don't fight emotion with emotion. You fight it with logic, control, and silence. Let's go deeper. Because each of these 10 lessons isn't just philosophy, it's a psychological transformation. Detachment from opinion is not just confidence, it's liberation from the social prison. When you no longer need approval, you stop betraying yourself to please others. Think about how most people live. They post for attention, dress for attention, speak for attention, all for validation that vanishes in seconds. Their peace depends on the reactions of others. You, on the other hand, must become indifferent to applause. When you detach from opinions, you regain control of your self-image. You realize that people's words are reflections of their own insecurities, not mirrors of your worth. This is how Machiavelli viewed humanity, not through emotions, but through motives. Everyone is driven by self-interest. Once you accept that, you no longer take anything personally. You stop asking, why did they treat me like this? And start thinking, what did they gain by doing it? This mindset protects you from manipulation because you stop expecting morality from people who are only motivated by benefit. That's when you become mentally invincible, when you can see through behavior without absorbing the emotion behind it. Now, never explaining yourself goes beyond arrogance. It's a psychological weapon. Every time you explain, you give people access to your logic. You give them the map of your decisions. And once they have that, they can predict you, control you, disarm you. Mystery is power because it creates uncertainty. When people can't read you, they can't prepare for you. And uncertainty triggers fear. Fear is what keeps people aligned with your direction without you ever raising your voice. So learn to let silence answer questions. Let people misunderstand you. The one who's desperate to be understood is already weak, because his peace depends on others' comprehension. But the one who stays silent, who trusts his own reasoning, he becomes untouchable. Then comes turning pain into strategy. This one is brutal because pain makes most people regress. They overthink, they doubt, they break. But Machiavelli's mind was forged through loss. He was betrayed by his own government, tortured and exiled. Yet instead of collapsing, he wrote The Prince. He turned pain into perspective. Pain shows you where you're still emotionally dependent. It shows you which situations still control your reactions. The trick is to use pain as a diagnostic tool, not as an identity. Don't cry over it, study it. The more you understand why something hurts, the less power it has. Pain loses its venom when you analyze it instead of reacting to it. And that's what separates thinkers from victims. Victims react, thinkers dissect. When you control your image, you stop being a pawn and become the player. Machiavelli said appearances are more powerful than truth because people believe what they see more than what they hear. That means this: don't tell people who you are. Show them what benefits them to believe. Control your presentation. Speak strategically. Dress with intention. Appear confident even when you're uncertain. The mind of the masses doesn't follow authenticity, it follows perception. This is why you should never reveal your weakness. Once people know what breaks you, they will test it, every single time. So wear masks not to lie, but to survive. A king doesn't show the scars under his robe, because those scars remind others that he can bleed, and power cannot afford to look fragile. Now revenge, the poison that keeps men stuck. Most people waste their entire lives plotting against those who hurt them, but Machiavelli knew that revenge consumes more energy than it returns. The wise man doesn't seek to destroy his enemy. He seeks to outgrow him, because when you rise so high that your enemy's name becomes irrelevant, you've already won. Imagine this. Someone betrayed you years ago. While you're still replaying the event in your head, they've already forgotten it. You're the only prisoner. That's why you must replace revenge with evolution. Success is the most sophisticated form of psychological dominance. You don't destroy them physically, you destroy them existentially by thriving without them. When you learn indifference, you achieve the highest level of mental control. People think indifference is coldness. It's not. It's selective focus. You simply refuse to waste emotional energy on things beneath your level. Think about how lions behave. They don't react to the barking of dogs. They walk slowly, calmly, with authority, because their silence says everything. That's the posture you must adopt in life. When people try to provoke you, see them as noise, not threats. The world respects composure more than rage, and the moment you master indifference, you reverse the power dynamic. Because now they want your attention, your reaction, your validation. You've become the center. They orbit around you. When you stop chasing and start attracting, the game changes completely. This is psychological magnetism, the law of power that Machiavelli disguised behind political language. He knew that people are drawn to what's scarce. The less accessible you are, the more valuable you seem. So stop chasing opportunities. Build value so high that opportunity finds you. Stop chasing women. Build energy so strong that women feel pulled toward you. Stop chasing recognition. Build skill so undeniable that recognition becomes unavoidable. Chasing is the movement of the desperate. Attraction is the posture of the powerful. Now being feared instead of liked. This lesson reveals how human psychology truly works. People don't respect goodness, they respect boundaries. Fear is not about violence, it's about consequence. When you establish yourself as someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect, people become careful. They think twice before crossing you. Fear commands order. Love invites chaos. Because love without fear becomes entitlement. Machiavelli wasn't promoting cruelty, he was teaching realism. To be loved and feared is ideal, but if you must choose, always choose fear. Because people might love you and still betray you, but they'll never betray someone they fear disappointing. You build that kind of fear by being consistent, by saying what you mean and meaning what you say, by walking away once and never coming back, by never raising your voice, just raising your standards. The calm man who enforces consequences silently is the one people remember. Then comes the art of playing dumb. You might think intelligence should always be displayed, but in truth, showing too much awareness exposes you. Machiavelli knew that pretending to be naive disarms others. It makes them relax, talk freely, and underestimate you. When they think you're unaware, they show their cards. You gather information while they reveal weakness. Then, when it's time, you strike with precision. This is how manipulators win without ever appearing threatening. They absorb everything quietly, then act surgically. Remember, the most dangerous man in the room is never the loudest. It's the one who listens carefully and speaks only when the damage is guaranteed. Finally, detachment from outcomes. This is the crown of mental invincibility. The man who needs a specific result is a slave to uncertainty. The man who focuses only on his process, his strategy, his control, his preparation, is untouchable. Machiavelli said that fortune is like a woman. She favors those who act boldly, not those who beg. That means you must take action without emotional attachment. Do your best, then accept whatever happens. Because once you stop fearing outcomes, fear itself dies. You can't manipulate a man who has nothing to lose. You can't control a man whose peace doesn't depend on victory. That's the paradox. Once you no longer crave results, you perform better. You think clearly. You stay grounded. You become immune to failure because failure no longer defines you. It instructs you. That's when people start calling you cold. But it's not coldness, it's power under control. Now look at all these lessons together. They're not separate ideas. They're layers of mental armor. Detachment makes you unpredictable. Silence makes you respected. Pain makes you intelligent. Indifference makes you stable. Fear makes you influential. Together, they form a psychological fortress no one can penetrate. People will try to test that fortress. They'll provoke you. They'll question your confidence. They'll accuse you of arrogance. Let them. Every accusation is proof that your strength exposes their weakness. The weak always resent what they can't control. You must become the kind of man who smiles in the face of misunderstanding, because he knows that power doesn't need explanation. But here's the secret Machiavelli never wrote directly. True power is not about domination. It's about sovereignty, the ability to rule yourself. When you can command your mind, every external situation becomes negotiable. The world will always belong to the few who master themselves, the few who don't react, who don't explain, who don't break, the few who can walk away without emotion, adapt without fear, and rebuild without complaint. So from this day forward, treat every challenge as a test of your psychological armor. When life gets hard, remind yourself, this is my training ground. When people betray you, remind yourself, this is my data. When you feel pain, remind yourself, this is my fuel. Machiavelli said it best. He who becomes master of himself becomes master of his fate. That's what it means to be mentally untouchable. To walk through fire and remain calm. To lose everything and still move forward with a steady mind. To know that nothing outside you has the power to break what you've already conquered within. And if you reach that level, you don't just survive the world, you rule it quietly. You influence people without speaking. You win battles without fighting. You gain loyalty without asking. Because your presence becomes power. If you've listened this far, it means something inside you is awakening. The part that refuses to be weak, emotional, or ordinary. Let it grow. Let it take over. And if you want to keep sharpening that mindset, subscribe. Join the few who are building mental empires, not emotional cages, and comment below, I am untouchable, to seal that decision right now. Because once you understand Machiavelli's ruthless lessons, you'll never see weakness the same way again. If you're ready to become mentally untouchable, comment below. I bow to no one. Let the world know you've chosen power over emotion. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next lesson will make you even more dangerous.